The man who transformed old homes into national treasures is ready to reveal a startling fact. Fans have been keeping a careful eye on it for months, wondering if the person they have trusted for years is going to permanently go. As the rumors became more widespread, Kevin O'Connor remained mute. Finally, though, he is prepared to reveal the truth, and the story starts with an unexpected moment. There have been rumors about Kevin O'Connor's future on this historic home for a while. The same question was posed everywhere he went. Was he going somewhere? Aw. Was the man who gave the program a sense of home leaving? Nobody was certain. Kevin never came forth with a definitive response. Rather, he began to move in ways that increased the amount of conversation. He started to appear in new locations, and people noticed. Speaking in front of large crowds at important events, he discussed leadership, building, and the lessons that may be learned from ancient walls. And it wasn't merely for amusement. He received between $15,000 and $50,000 for each appearance in these speeches. With that type of money, he was well known outside of the TV. He was simultaneously exploring other areas of the building industry. In order to give guidance on how to expand a business or repair a building, he attended conferences with contractors and CEOs. On much larger platforms, he was becoming a voice that people trusted. When everything was considered, it was evident that Kevin was entering a new phase. He was no longer merely the host. He was emerging as a leader, an authority, and perhaps even an industry hero. Change has always been a theme of the show itself. It transforms anything worn out and damaged into something brand new. Kevin stood in the midst of the transformation for 20 years. He contributed to making this ancient home modern and fit for the coming generation. He did more than simply keep it alive. He aided in its cross-platform expansion, reaching viewers on television, the internet, and construction sites worldwide. However, you must begin with the aspect of his life that most people are unaware of if you truly want to comprehend how he got here. The segment that started with a house that was constantly in need of repair. Kevin O'Connor was merely a youngster growing up in Maplewood, New Jersey, before cameras followed him everywhere. He came from a family that understood what it meant to start from scratch when he was born in 1968 or 1969. Their home was a constant work in progress, and his father worked as a civil engineer. Kevin and his brothers lugged planks and mixed cement as other children played catch. By primary school, he was able to read measure boards and plans on his own. Although it wasn't always enjoyable, it sowed a seed that would last a lifetime. Everything changed when I was 19. He began repeatedly blacking out when he was undergoing military training. Physicians found that he had a cardiac murmur. They were unable to guarantee that things wouldn't worsen. Stranger still, the medical records pertaining to his examinations and diagnosis vanished. Nobody was aware of their whereabouts. He needed a fresh strategy because the military door was closing and the loss of those records hounded him for years. He then went to school. He received his diploma from Newark St. Benedict's Preparatory School in 1986. It was an environment that required diligence. He studied history at the College of the Holy Cross and graduated in 1990 thanks to that field. History taught him how to concisely explain concepts, even though it didn't seem like the path to a construction show. He mastered the art of simplifying complex facts so that anyone could grasp them. He then went on to Boston University to obtain his MBA. He confidently entered the corporate sector after completing all of that education. He began by working in sports finance at Fleet Bank, where he assisted in financing stadiums. He later transferred to Bank of America. He quickly rose to the position of senior vice president, managing accounts valued at millions of dollars. He was building a life that most people would envy, earning six figures and moving up the ladder. On the exterior, it appeared flawless. On the inside, though, Kevin was still drawn to something that he couldn't ignore. In Beverly, Massachusetts, he and his spouse, Kathleen, purchased a Queen Anne Victorian home in 2003. It had a nice appearance. However, the issues began to mount as soon as they moved in. Every inch needed to be fixed. Nothing in the bedrooms, baths, or kitchen was secure. The worst thing, though, was the wallpaper. It had undergone numerous layers of painting. It was similar to attempting to remove concrete from the walls. Even after hours of tearing and scraping, it hardly made a dent. They emailed the staff at this old mansion in a desperate attempt to get a tip that might help them save their sanity. Kevin was unaware that Ask This Old House, a new offshoot, was being planned by the producers. He couldn't have come at a better time. They took notice of the email. However, he wasn't only lucky to be in front of the cameras. Nobody else has what Kevin did. A sincere approach to questioning that forced the specialist to divulge. He assumed it would be a cordial visit when the crew arrived at his Victorian home. He was unaware that it was a test. They asked him about the wallpaper issue that was driving him nuts while they were filming him at work. He kept asking questions even after the camera stopped rolling. He followed Tom Silva around over lunch, bringing him suggestions and concerns. Before Tom had a chance to eat, Kevin asked another question. Everything was being watched by the producers. They could see that he was naturally intrigued. He was filled with the same awe that viewers experienced when they attempted to repair their own houses. Kevin thought he had just had the most amazing day ever when the filming was over. He begged to take a picture with the crew since he was so happy. He informed them that he would most likely never see them again and requested a memento to commemorate the occasion. However, a call that would alter his life arrived just 3 weeks later. The phone rang when he was seated at his Bank of America office. He mistook it for a customer, but it was actually the old house's producers. They asked him whether he would want to host both the original series and the new spin-off. It seemed unbelievable to Kevin. He believed it to be a practical joke. He wasn't certain this was true, even when he knew they were serious. In case everything went wrong, he told his bank supervisor that he may return in a year. However, the producers were well versed in their craft. They had already experienced 2 drastic and dissimilar host shifts. The show's initial host, Bob Villa, had made it renowned, but he had also made bad decisions. When Bob Villa began in 1979, nobody believed that house remodeling could make for entertaining television. Millions of people saw this old house that he helped transform. However, Bob's salary remained modest even as the show expanded. He started out earning only $200 per episode. He was only earning $800 every episode, even after 10 years. He made less money during his whole tenure than other contractors did in a single year. Bob's big endorsement contract with Rickle Home Centers caused a rift with Home Depot, the show's primary sponsor. He had to choose between the two according to PBS. Bob decided on the cash. The producers didn't even inform him that he had been dismissed. A press release told his agency about it. Steve Thomas took over after Bob left. He was calmer, more cautious, and different, and he spent 14 years there. In 1998, he even took home an Emmy. However, he disappeared from the show in 2003. There was no elaborate send-off or farewell episode, just a brief statement expressing his desire to sail and ski. The fans were perplexed. Why he left was a mystery to everyone. The producers understood their next choice had to be exceptional because of all that history. Someone trustworthy, someone new, someone who could gain the respect of the devoted fans and the veteran team. Kevin received the call for that reason. However, there wasn't a red carpet invite to join the show. He was met with a shovel by Richard Trethewey, the show's tough-minded plumbing expert. After working in bank boardrooms for years, Kevin was now excavating ditches for sewer systems. No cameras were present to add a lovely touch. The kind of labor that left your hands raw was this one. The fact that Kevin was the new host didn't bother Richard. He wanted to see if Kevin could cope with the grime, the perspiration, and the demands of the work. Each aching muscle served as a test, and he wasn't just being tested by Richard. Kevin was immediately thrust into sawing and measuring by Tom Silva. Kevin wasn't asked to act for the camera. He forced him to complete the task in person. Tom said a host should be knowledgeable and not just recite lines. Kevin quickly discovered that he had to earn his place if he wanted to fit in. After filming, he spent hours learning the proper usage of each tool. He repeatedly measured boards until he could do it instinctively. Because they watched him struggle, make mistakes, and try again, they were rooting for him. It was just a year after he began that something unexpected occurred. In 2004, Kevin received an Emmy nomination for Outstanding Service Show Host. He was taken aback. Critics were as well. Suddenly, a man who had never worked in television was standing next to seasoned presenters. Steve Thomas and Bob Vila had established their names over many years. Kevin completed it in just one season. His sincerity, curiosity, and a readiness to take on the role of learner rather than expert resonated. The Emmy nomination demonstrated that he was just what the show required, but Kevin was evolving on a deeper level. He became aware that he enjoyed more than just discussing construction. He enjoyed doing it. He desired to feel the job in his hands, lay the bricks, and pick up the hammer. Because of that mentality, he became a true collaborator to the professionals rather than just another TV celebrity. He stepped in rather than standing aside. Kevin reached for a wrench as Richard demonstrated how to run pipes. Kevin assisted with nailing the boards after Tom demonstrated how to frame a window. The show felt different as a result. Teaching wasn't the only thing involved. Together, we were to learn. He continued that strategy when he became the presenter of Ask This Old House. For him, though, that was insufficient. He became a member of This Old House magazine's editorial board and contributed to the development of the magazine's articles. Additionally, he assisted in the launch of a third series, Inside This Old House, in the same year that he began hosting. This one featured behind-the-scenes glimpses at some of the most impressive projects the program has ever worked on. The absurd aspect was that he continued to work for Bank of America for a while. Until he was certain that this new career was stable, he did not completely leave his banking position. He exercised caution. He wasn't trying to get famous on TV. His goal was to create something enduring. However, Kevin's cautious approach did not imply that he was hesitant to express his opinions. Actually, he did something one day that nearly everyone was taken aback by. A reporter asked him about his thoughts on the influx of new do-it-yourself shows on cable channels during an interview. Kevin didn't mince words. He referred to majority of them as shit. He claimed that they were useless and that he couldn't be interested in them for even a moment. The word crap spread like wildfire. It resembled striking a match in a parched jungle. Other TV hosts were incensed and fans were taken aback. Kevin didn't back down. Instead, he doubled down. Those shows were fake, he stated. They led people to believe that you could renovate a whole house on a very small expense in a single weekend. And because the shows were lying, anyone who attempted to replicate that at home failed, not because they were stupid. He stated deceiving viewers was wrong. People began to realize that Kevin was more than just a host who reads scripts at that point. He genuinely cared about the truth and assisting others in doing things correctly. He referred to his remarks as the beginning of a philosophical war. The fast-paced, ostentatious performances that prioritized entertainment above actual ability were on one side. So, Kevin felt that the primary goal of This Old House was to educate rather than merely amuse. When HGTV stars retaliated, the altercation became louder. They claimed that people like witnessing fast makeovers and that Kevin didn't understand their audience. Kevin, however, refused to move. If something seems too simple, it's probably not real, he remarked. One thing Kevin never mentioned, even during the arguments, was Bob Vila. This historic house's initial host, Bob, left in 1989 following a heated argument over endorsements. PBS told him to choose a side. Despite the fact that he had secured $500,000 contracts with other businesses, it ended when he decided to take the money. Kevin, however, never mentioned it. He never spoke of Bob Vila in public for more than 20 years. No kudos, no guilt. Some said that was wise because discussing it would only resurrect old issues. Kevin was always careful who he fought. But Kevin never held back when it came to honoring older builders. When people made fun of the way houses were constructed a century ago, he detested it. Those builders were smart, he remarked. With what they had, they made do. They used plaster and coal to the best of their abilities if fiberglass insulation was not available. Additionally, Kevin disagreed with those who said that large homes were invariably harmful. He maintained that waste was not a function of magnitude. A large, well-constructed home may consume less energy than a small, poorly constructed one. That caused him to argue, but he didn't give a damn. Judging without understanding is just lazy, he remarked. Each of these strong beliefs served a purpose. Kevin wanted this historic home to remain unique. He desired for it to seem genuine. He hoped it wouldn't become another short-lived flip program. And part of that was his refusal to bring up Bob Vila. He had no intention of bringing the show's history into the present. Rather, he concentrated on going forward. When Norm Abram retired in 2022, that focus was put to the test once more. Ever since the first episode, Norm had been there. He was the reliable, steady carpenter that everyone trusted for 43 years. It was like losing a piece of the show's heart when Norm left. Kevin, however, remained calm. He meticulously prepared the changeover. He maintained Norm's spirit while bringing in new specialists. When Roger Cook had to take a backseat due to his health, he followed suit. Roger got almost as much time on the show as Norm. To avoid giving people the impression that everything was changing all at once, Kevin introduced Jen Nwata gradually. Kevin was also aware of the rapid changes in TV viewing habits. They would record lengthy scenes that lasted 10 or even 12 minutes without a single cut when Bob Vila was presenting. However, audiences of today preferred faster cuts. Kevin adjusted. He never made the segments shallow. Instead, he made them tighter and shorter. He persisted in his probing inquiries. Therefore, the lessons were still evident even though the scenes were paced more quickly. He also assisted in the show's expansion. He launched Clear Story, a podcast on household operations, in 2019. The program was a huge success and was in the top 1% of podcasts. He assisted this former house partner with Roku in 2021 so that everyone may watch all of the episodes for free. Every one of the 1,500 episodes was made available online, plus a station that continuously streamed them. Additionally, in order to assist viewers in completing the projects they learned about, he co-founded This Old Toolbox, a tool rental service. When other shows went away, Kevin's approach to managing all these changes, maintaining the original spirit while embracing new ideas, helped the show endure. It also assisted him in creating a solid financial future. People wanted to know Kevin's real income. In the beginning, Kevin was making roughly $10,000 every episode, whereas Bob Vila was making only $200. Having hosted more than 380 programs, he earned millions of dollars. He didn't stop there either. He received up to $50,000 apiece for his speaking engagements. He motivated hundreds of people, gave speeches at large trade events, and instructed businesses on the future of construction. He invested using his previous banking expertise as well. He made over $1.05 million annually from stocks that were valued over $5 million. He continued to reside in the Queen Anne Victorian home that made him famous on television. It was not a trophy house. It demonstrated his continued belief in historic homes, meticulous labor, and doing things correctly. And admirers continued to ask the same question after all these years. Does Kevin O'Connor intend to leave this old home? This is the solution. Kevin had no intention of leaving the concert because he was bored or exhausted. His participation in numerous speaking engagements sparked the rumors, making investments and starting a podcast. Some thought he was preparing to leave. Although he is eager to expand his influence and explore other things, Kevin has stated that he does not consider those endeavors as a replacement for the show. They are extensions. This old house is still where my heart is, he explained, adding that he still enjoys standing in old kitchens and wondering why the joists were done that way. Every episode still teaches him something new. He still thinks there are more stories to be told in the show. He didn't start taking on more projects in order to escape hosting. The goal was to raise awareness of the need of quality construction. Therefore, even though Kevin is busier than ever, he isn't giving up. He is simply expanding his methods of instruction and motivation. He doesn't have to pick between TV and his other endeavors because he has created something so solid, and for that reason, Kevin O'Connor isn't leaving after 20 years. He remains standing in the sawdust, prepared to pose the following query. You don't have to choose fame above the truth, as Kevin O'Connor has demonstrated. You may create a life you love while upholding your morals and teaching others what is important. His tale has a conclusion. One project at a time. It's expanding.